Hello everyone, it's Wednesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hello, Nima Akashat Zibiri.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm very fine. I was well rested until this morning, but thank God.
Yes, you're not around Monday, Tuesday.
Yes, so. My mom was supposed to be stay over till Tuesday. But when we lost a family friend and a very close friend of my dad, she just packed on Saturday morning. She has to go for the janaza. She has to go. I kept saying to her, it's not you that will do it. I'll take you home on Sunday. So I had to take her back over the weekend, and that was it.
What you've been looking forward to?
But it was okay. At least I had a bit. My children also. My son now talks about grammar in person. So we're getting there little by little. I said, promise to come back. I hope she comes back. Then on Sunday was family reunion. And Wednesday was my other sister's birthday, the first daughter of my dad.
That's fantastic.
And it was just family all the way.
Nice. You're pampered over this weekend. I saw the seafood.
It was my mom now. I want to give her, whenever I was pregnant, she would make me crabs to get me calcium. She would give me natural food to give me. So I wanted to do it back and make sure I loaded edges, all of that.
Which I know you're okay. Let me move to Takwe. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Grateful to God. So something very interesting has been happening. My son is, the idea of you're looking forward to your birthday, he wants it like yesterday, and he's so excited. Everything in the house is about his birthday. Sam, every small thing. Is this for my birthday? If you buy tomatoes, is it for my birthday? If you buy a TV, is it for my birthday? And like, since he became 3, the birthday awareness is so high. Like, he's always looking forward to it. So right now, everybody in the house, we are all waiting.
So when is our birthday again?
It's on the 21st of March. We are all counting down.
That was a Sunday.
Yes, it's a Sunday. We are counting down to the birthday.
To your house.
Yes.
After church, straight to your house.
Honestly.
Very much like you, because you celebrate your mom.
Oh yes, true. Yes. True. So I didn't even think of it.
How are you doing, Maria?
I'm fine, thank you. My best friend is in town. I stay with her kids. Her kids are 8 and 5, and I have never met them.
Oh, she lives
8 years and 5, so I'm so excited to meet them. Really, they're just around for a very short time, but I'm excited. But something very interesting happened on my way to work. This bus driver weaving in and out of traffic in front of a fuel tanker. The fuel tanker driver was so upset. They have like a person on the side. When he find that one, everybody almost, collided into each other. When the tanker now finally got close to that bus driver, the one sitting by his side took water.
Oh my God!
I was so happy. Every time I passed the fuel tanker driver was like, thank you. Thank you. Because it happens to me sometimes. I wish I had like a long rope to just flog some of these drivers on the road.
But that's what I witnessed this morning was clearly an abuse. So we were all stuck in the traffic. There was no way out. And these buses were on the BRT lane that has not been commissioned yet. So that's the way out for some people. So this bus driver has passengers. He has to stop at every stop. But the military men on bikes said, you can't keep stopping. Right. And before we knew it, clearly belted this man. I felt so sorry for him. I was late. It was nothing like that.
I have a save also message from somebody living in Hijab, Baduri area, and I think I should read it. They said there's always traffic because there are trucks on the road taking up half of the lane, causing traffic. And then, because they're always picking up sand from dredging sites. So this is on the Ajah to Ado to Baduri Road. There's always shooting and killing. I see a dead body at least every day. It's getting unbearable. Please help us tell the authorities, and I'm using this opportunity to call on the government of Lagos State to please attend to the cult members who go on rampage in that Ado, Ajah, Badure area. Because this person that sent a message has been robbed 4 times, 4 back to back. Like her windscreen was smashed with cutlass. They took her stuff. She lives in fear. In fact, we'll be begging her to just come to the mainland. It's really, really painful. So please,
it's spread across Lagos in every place you have trucks. But Ajah is popular for inter-cultist war and all of that. And when they're armed and they're idle, of course,
they will find something else to do. Please, we must also mention the Long Bridge is similarly outside Lagos, but many people that live within that axis are also paying taxes in Lagos. They also undergo major attacks along the Long Bridge outside Lagos. So please, let's have security operatives position themselves.
I will continue to remind government to do that. All right, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
All right, we're going to start with the nation. Federal government Delta battle over 4.2 million euros linked to Iburi and others. Lagos FCT Bauchi, Kaduna top in vaccine allocation. Service chiefs move to Katsina to flush out bandits. Malami, Falano, Magu, others to testify in Maina's case. And Akeredolu bans NURTW activities after violence. Major headline. Everybody has a major headline.
Let's say first of all, thank God for Nigeria that we are getting this huge amount in pounds back to the country, about 4.3 million pounds returned from the Ibori loot. But then, before the money will arrive in 3 weeks, according to the UK envoy to our country, they don't start the battle of who owns what. So yesterday, the Attorney General was already insisting that the federal government recovered the money and already it's been earmarked for the completion of the second Hijab bridge, and that's it. But the Delta State government are protesting. They say that they will take every legal means to recover this money because the money is meant for the Delta State government was taken away from them.
All right, that's debatable. We'll talk about that. We'll see if we can talk about it later. But let us talk about the service chiefs. Who has that story?
Yes, so the service chiefs have relocated. They've deployed 6,000 troops to Zamfara State. The goal is to end banditry with these 6,000 additional troops. The Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant Lucky Irabo, specifically yesterday said that that was their goal. The President Muhammadu Buhari's order is to free the region from banditry and other forms of insecurity. I'm really looking forward. I no longer celebrate announcements like this until we have a few months of reprieve from attacks. Well, looking forward to them doing that.
Let's move on now to, I was going to talk about the Lagos State. We finally received our own batch of the vaccines.
Okay.
507,000 vaccines were received in Lagos State yesterday. And
This is the picture of the governor of the state.
Governor
The elder statesman.
Obviously, we can see the parity of
so listen,
the parity.
somebody was telling me they are citizens and they are nationals. We are nationals. These Nigerian citizens will get the vaccines. Those are the ones that the elites will get it first.
They are the citizens.
They are because citizens means that the government backs you. The government will make everything to protect you.
So nationals are...
They are just by the time of citizens.
the numbers.
They are the numbers.
We're the
But I think that as the political leaders are taking, they should also remember that we have frontline workers, and those should also be on the front.
No, they are priority.
They are a priority.
Elderly and
yes, and we actually
essential
registered.
workers.
So let me not say that we're masses. We've all registered.
I'd like
so
to see
hopefully
the
at some point you get to us.
The governor claiming to be younger to compromise for some older person in the state.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on now to the Punch. Labour moves against National Assembly, holds nationwide protest today. Ogun Community Rights Abiodun accuses herdsmen of killing hunters. FG replaces emergency travel certificate with temporary passport. Canada-based pastor petitions IGCP over threat to life and property. Ex-Dangote GM orders jail for $32,000 insurance fraud. Lagos leads vaccine allocation with 507,000 doses. FCT 219,000 and Katsina 160,000. Insecurity, unstoppable Forex affecting investments in Nigeria, says Netherlands.
So
Right.
So
The
major headline.
Yes.
Yes. So the Nigerian Labour Congress has said that today, Wednesday, they are going to start protests, and they're starting in Abuja from the Unity Fountain. And the protest is about the minimum wage conversations and negotiations, which the Senate, the House of Assembly, is proposing to move from the concurrent list to the exclusive list, and NLC is saying that for them this is just a way for them to undermine the Nigerian people. This conversation has to be left where it is for now, and because of that they are going to be protesting. So they are calling on all Nigerians concerning this.
So it's actually a bill that we're hoping that.
Yes, the bill.
So we have our Nigerian Immigration Service. They replaced the temporary certificate, a travel certificate, with a temporary passport. The emergency travel certificate with a temporary passport valid for 30 days. And according to the Minister for Interior, it is a one-way passports back to Nigeria for Nigerians in diaspora who have their passports missing or destroyed or anything, and they want to come back home. So they have a passport valid for 30 days until it's used to get them home, and when they get here, they can do whatever it takes to replace the missing passport.
Let me take the story of what Netherlands is saying. Speaking at an event to commemorate, let me just get that fact right. The ambassador from Netherlands to Nigeria mentioned the fact that the insecurity in Nigeria is the reason for lack of investment, and it's also the reason we have fluctuating rates in our fluctuating exchange rates, because our economy isn't conducive for people to bring in their funds. Stating the obvious, what is the government going to do about it? What we're waiting for. It was also addressing the Ministry of Interior, so I'm waiting for their response, because they didn't capture it in the paper, that their own assurance that we can be bankable in terms of investments.
All right, let's move on very quickly to Daily Sun. Fireworks in Senate over alleged unremitted funds. FG flags up Eastern Rail renovation project. Ibarakba, police released 3 OPC members detained over arrest of Wakili. Minimum wage NLC begins picketing of National Assembly, state assemblies today. South-South governors insist on inauguration of NDDC board. Climate change fueling insurgency, armed conflict, says president. And UK to return £4.2 million.
Please let me take the major headline. Please let me take the major headline.
Go
So, the Auditor General of the Federation, Agugu Adolphus, and the group managing director, Mele Kiari, had a back and forth, because the Auditor General had done a forensic audit of NNPC that we have been saying they were going to do for the past 2 years. Finally, they've done, and they discovered that some funds were missing, allegedly unremitted. And the GMD of NNPC was saying that they have a right to withhold funds to carry out expenses within the NNPC, operational expenses that were not captured. So the gap is, if the audit did not capture these operational expenses that they carried out, and they are saying they withheld, that they used the funds that the Auditor General is claiming missing to carry out this operational expenses. My question is, at what point would EFCC step into the situation to do a thorough investigation?
So, according to the Auditor General, it says that they broke the Section 162 of the Constitution, but they are saying that there was a judgment by the Supreme Court. Thank you very much, Supreme Court, where it says that I empower the NNPC to make reductions of their running costs from source. So that's where there's a legal battle of we are constitutionally allowed to deduct from source.
Just to confirm, it's not like money they can't see. It's that there's an amount of money that they noticed that deductions were made from source. And so in explaining why that deduction was made was what they're saying, that they have the right to take money out for operational work for the NNPC. But now the conversation is, so what takes precedence?
Yes.
Is it the NNPC Act
or the
Constitution?
Constitution?
There's also the issue of the amount. So there's a between 2010 and 2016, they are looking for 4 trillion. NNPC is saying that's too huge an amount that, what they have deducted so far legally is about 700, and the auditor confirmed that. But now they're saying the federal government is owing NNPC 239 million or billion amount.
All right, let me go on a quick. When we come back, we'll continue with the review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're still on the paper review, and we're going to move on now to the Nigerian Tribune. All right, let's see a story we've not taken. Scan tackles Kwara governor on hijab for Christian mission schools. What I told my daughter when we met in Kidnappers' Den, father of abducted Zamfara school girl. How Oyo, Oshun, Ondo, Ekiti crisis will affect PDP's 2023 elections. And South-South governors demand 10% for oil host communities. These are the stories we haven't taken. We have the Zamfara.
Story. So this man, Malam Ilya Goram, who was abducted in Zamfara State for over 3 months while in captivity, the Jenga girls were abducted, and amongst them was his daughter. And so he said, you can imagine his shock when these girls were brought in by these bandits and he saw his daughter, and he said that he was afraid that she shouldn't, indicate that she recognized him, and he was able to tell some of the girls who were beside him, that were her classmates, to tell her, do not let them know that we know each other. He said that on the day when they were rescued, they were taken away, he cried so hard because he thought that was the last time he would ever see his daughter. But thankfully, the daughter was able to talk to the governor and tell them their whereabouts and the conditions that they were in. And so they came and they rescued them. He was asked if any money was given for his rescue, and he says he doesn't know anything about that. All he's concerned about is home safe. And he was asked if his daughter will continue with her education. He said she will continue with her education.
That was a good story. I'm so happy that he got out of that
very
place.
touching story.
Well, it's a lot of work now for the governor of Niger State having to deal with this rescue. These were 10 people rescued recently again that he was part of. And, you know, there were other abductions happening across the states of individuals.
Okay. All right, let's move on now to Vanguard. Quite a few stories. The OPC Fulani group in verbal war over arrest of Wakili. Kyari to reps NNPC has legal powers to make running deductions from source. CBN invests 85.9 billion naira in health sector. I was in the same kidnappers den with my daughter. We just took that story. Apapa gridlock. Lagos traffic team uncovers e-collar ticket forgery by truck drivers. And PIB. South-South governors insist on 10% stake for oil communities. All right, Nima, let's start with the...
Apapa, so according to the Lagos State spokesperson on Apapa, he said that the teething, what he called the teething problem that they had following the e-collar system that they launched was, you know, due to people truck drivers forging e-collar tickets and, you know, trying to get to Apapa because of that. And that they have uncovered them, they will beat them at their game. That's what he said. But being a resident in the environs of Apapa, what I suffered on Saturday was inability to get into the service lane from communities bordering around the Lagos-Badagry Expressway. So those of us at the Abule Osho, Abule Ado axis, Alakija axis find it difficult to get out of our houses because, of course, we can only exit into the service lane. So at the time when there was an alternative at the barracks, Ojo barracks, people would drive into community. I would pull out at Onireke and then get into the middle lane. And at least that one is moving. But now it's totally blocked because the contractor decided to block that only exit. And the next one is going all the way to Vaux, Yanova. So we don't have an alternative. And this morning, I sat there for 1 whole hour. By the time it was 7 o'clock and everywhere was clear, because usually I'm driving in the dark. I'm almost at Osho before it's daybreak. And this morning I just sat there and I saw sun. I said, it's like I will not go to work. So I eventually had to park my car at a place where it's not even safe, trekked, biked, and got to work. So that's the condition of those people living on that side of town. I know the community, the estate I live in, we have an appointment this morning with our disco. And we're supposed to go as a community. If we cannot make it to the meeting, we are dealing with our lives by ourselves. We're buying our power, buying our transformers.
All right, we have to move on.
A whole lot needs to be done. The governor already said he was going to name these people that were contravening the rules.
That are profiting from this.
He said he was going to, so we're waiting for him to name those.
When I got on the express, what I saw were tankers. So in between, you have some containers trying to get to terminals. So we have about 11 terminals on that road.
So there are 2 issues
but
for
the past 2 days now, the depot, tankers trying to access depot, totally took over the community, and there's nobody we can call, no authority.
All right, we need to move on to another story. I like the picture headline, though, for Vanguard, where you have the new EFCC boss standing in authority. I wish there was a story around it, but it was good that everybody was paying attention. But I wanted to touch on the CBN has disbursed 253 million naira to 5 researchers for the development of Nigerian COVID-19 vaccines and other diseases. So that's part of an investment, and they're trying to. There's a total of 85.9 billion in the entire health sector, and they're doing everything to ensure that they improve the level of research. So we're not just a consuming nation; we're now going to be producing, hopefully, vaccines going forward. Okay, want to take another story? Okay,
that's a long term.
Yeah, but at least I'm happy they're backing up researches, which is important because we have these herbs in this part of the world. It's just that we don't have enough research.
It would also be nice to give an ultimatum so that we know what time limit the researchers have. If it's to imitate and reproduce the vaccines, let's know how long it took them abroad. It shouldn't be something that will last forever.
Okay, let's take Guardian. I'm not sure we have a story there. Fireworks over return of £4.2 million. NNPC empowered to make deductions. I think we took that story. Queen Elizabeth expresses sadness over Harry-Meghan revelations. We are saving that gist for another day. Economists debate CBN shortcuts to Forex convergence. Okay, let me move on quickly to the final paper this day. 26 states await COVID-19 vaccine delivery as 8 governors receive jab today. Oh, the governors are taking their jabs today. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. That's all we can take on front page review. Was there any other story I missed that you guys wanted to talk about?
Yes, I had this story where we're talking about how climate change affects, and then it affects the reason why we may have insecurity in Nigeria and across Africa, especially as it affects the Chad basin. So, you know, there's the dryness of the rivers, so there's no grazing occurring. So communities are moving, people are moving into other different communities. And also, you know, fight to get food, you're moving your cattle, you're getting into people's farms. Those are the sort of things that eventually can cause insecurity. Usually when we talk about insecurity, we don't normally mention climate change.
But you see, that's part of the failure of government. We know this is happening. Then you need to ensure that the communities, because these are communities that will continue to move, whether we like it or not. So we in the host communities must be told ahead of time that, listen, these things are going to happen. We're going to have an influx of people coming from these certain regions. These are the various things you can. There has to be a framework to accept and adopt these people, at least for a period.
That is one. But second, what is most important, that we need to start having conversation. We have to normalize discussing climate change and the effects of our daily activities and how it would affect everything.
How deforestation.
It's a cycle.
Yes, deforestation. They've been shouting about it since that deforestation is happening in the north.
And they've been able to, you know, to create vegetation by creating irrigation, and there are scientific ways to do this. So the Chad basin, yes, is because of the farming and all of that around the area, but we can revive it by you know, creating other.
And you start by understanding and recognizing that this can happen.
Yes, the topography of that area, and creating solutions that, you know, would keep the people within their area. So
we have to wrap up this time. That's all we can take on front page review. When we come back, we discuss the hot topic for today. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, the Kwara state government approved the use of hijab in all public schools in the state, meaning that Muslim girls attending Christian missionary schools were to use hijab. This development affected the academic activities of those schools and, most importantly, the students. As of today, the government have asked all 10 missionary schools to close down whilst the hijab issue is being resolved. What are your thoughts on this? How do we move forward? You can call us on 081-270-53687 or 091-390-76948. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourVTVC so we can read your tweets. So we've discussed hijab issues quite often in the past, and there have been quite a lot of judgments in courts, especially in Lagos State and other states, where this matter has seemed to have been resolved. But in Kwara State, it's a bit peculiar because the issue are with missionary schools, which used to belong to missions. At some time, I think there was a judgment where it was kind of converted over to the government, right? They took over all missionary schools. But at some point, I think it was given back. I'm not sure if it was ever returned back. It was given back to some of these
are mission schools, but they do get grants and aids from
the state. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So the question, therefore, is, what are your thoughts on the fact that these schools are refusing to allow the Muslim children wear hijabs, whilst the state is saying they should? And there's a back and forth with Khan and others on this. Let me hear your thoughts before I come to Nima. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so when I read the story, my first thought was, when did we get to this point where we no longer are able to tolerate one another? And the real value of what being Christ-like is for me is ability to accept, tolerate, and love one another. They say you catch a fly better with a sweet than with vinegar. When a church is insisting that someone can't be who they want to be to come to your premise, then it's wrong. I grew up in a CNS church. We had major back and forth at a point because you're supposed to remove your shoe to get into the church auditorium. But there were people that said they want to come for a wedding, they wanted to wear their shoes. And they raised the issue before the wedding day. And the Fakeye then, late Apostle Fakeye, who was the our leader then mentioned that they should be allowed in because we are welcoming people. So they walked into the auditorium with their shoes, and it was a concession that was made as a show of, this is an olive branch to bring you in. I know that there was a part of the story also carried, when the judgment was given, and the Muslim decided to, one of the Muslim ladies decided to wear a veil over her face. That was pushing it too far. But the idea of not allowing them come the way they want to present themselves in church, for me, is wrong. The church should be more welcoming.
The school, yeah.
The school should be more welcoming. That's my own opinion.
Yeah. So for me, I do not, I'm very afraid of making conversations like this about pitting one person against the other. So this is not a Christian versus Muslim conversation at all. This is a conversation based on principles, rules, regulations, and the foundation for which something is built, and also respect for what you meet there. So we hear this saying all the time, when in Rome, act as the Romans, and things like that. So I find it almost, when I read it, the word is, kamana, like you're being mischievous. This is clearly, the first name of the school, Cherubim and Seraphim Schools. Yes, so these are Christian, definitely Christian schools. And it was based on a particular principle, that and a foundation on which these schools were built. And it has appealed to you, who is not a Christian, to come to that school. So you have not been refused to come and do your, have your education there, but that there's a principle, there's a guiding principle for which this school operates. And it's only respectful that when you get there, you do it according to the way that they do. And if you do not like it, and if it for any reason makes you uncomfortable, it's against your religion, against your faith, or anything that you hold so dear, you are also allowed to willingly leave and go to somewhere that is much more accommodating to you. Because I know, growing up in Jos, there are so many schools, the Ansaruddins, the Nuruddins, the Al-Bayans, you cannot go into those schools dressed outside their uniform. They have their uniform. Even when you're coming to write external exams, you would wear the veil. It's a sign of respect.
For that
you know that this is what the school, these are the rules and regulations for the school. You show respect to that place. And for me, if you show a lack of respect to one, you're asking for a lack of respect to the other. And one thing I want is that respect all other, respect each other. And then when it's not conducive for you, go somewhere where it is.
Okay. Let me now come to Nima on this matter. Your thoughts on this?
I have the inside story, being an hijab rights advocate in Nigeria. And one of the things that I would like to say is the history of how schools were recovered. So I went to a Catholic school and we conformed. But when the government saw, conform mean that, I took the Ash Wednesdays, we did not wear the hijab, it was a school, and it had been taken over by government in Lagos State at the time. But we had the nuns still teaching, and they still had the Catholic rituals being done in school. And we conformed. But one of the reasons why government took over most of those schools was this divisiveness. If I didn't go to Our Lady of Lourdes Primary School, I would have had to trek further, even more dangerous terrain, because I was born on the Western Avenue axis, beyond my house as a young girl to school. So my parents had no choice. It wasn't like they had an option. And that's why most of those schools were overtaken by government. In those days, the Ansarudin were a reaction to the missionary schools, giving rules. In Auchi, for instance, you had to have a Christian name. So even the Royal Highness in Auchi has Kevin, which was not part of his birth name. So when you go to those schools, my uncle became Fred, and all of them had to have Christian name to attend the missionary schools within our state. These things continue to divide and widen gaps. So people lost some of the values from their homes. So government thought to regulate religion, take over these schools, make it public, and continue to regulate some of these rules that would discourage education. And in Kwara State, we're talking about 50 schools, only 10 of them have this problem. 50 schools were, overtaken. In the 70s, out of them, 10 are saying, we want to go back to our roots. We want to go back to the original basis for the creation of this school. And we do not want these girls to now wear the hijab, which wasn't an issue until recently in that state. So they are now saying to the girls, and I don't blame them, because we have this issue. The University of Ibadan International School have been in court with the hijab rights advocates for years now. Because they've refused to enforce the court orders allowing the hijab in their schools. To the extent parents are now, resorting to self-help, fighting, pushing their children into school, such things. The reason why we have our fundamental human rights respected and enshrined in the Constitution is so that we avoid things like this. I cannot, by my disposition, ask you to change your name or dress in a way I like. I just look at you and say, okay, your religion, I don't like it. For you to access this and this and this and this, this is what you do. So government own those schools. They fund those schools. Right, so whether they get grants from outside or not, or that their foundation is Christian-based, does not stop them from being Christian schools. But allow a young girl access education close to home and respect her rights to dress in a way that, you know, it's the standard for our public appearance for her.
So there's an angle to this where people are saying that these are when a government adopts schools, a government that is being proactive should also be able to establish schools that is accepting to his own populace. So yes, you have Muslims amongst you. While you're accepting Christian schools as your own, shouldn't you also create or establish Muslim schools to accommodate your Muslim children? That's another angle. People are saying that this could have gone to.
There is a court order allowing these children to wear their hijab in the school. There's a court order. It's not a case of these people came to school. If they came to school in hijab, flouting a court order saying they shouldn't wear it, I would not sit here and support it. There is a court order allowing these children access education in the way they prefer to be dressed. And then there is the moral perspective of why are we so hypocritical in the church system? So much that
this is church, but it's not in school.
No, it is a religious battle. It is not.
I don't want it.
No,
I don't want it.
Let's not avoid the elephant in the room. The reason the schools are saying you should not wear hijab is because it was for them. Remove it.
We are on television. It's important that we are careful in our utterances. And very, very careful. Let's stick to the conversation on what's going on. We're talking about. I'll come to you. Just hang in there. We're coming to the issue is the government of Kwara State not allowing, has closed down these schools because of this hijab issue. Yes, we know Khan is involved, but that's not the conversation here.
Let me put the facts out. The schools, there was an injunction from the court allowing students with hijab come to school to remain.
They cannot continue education.
Let me just give the facts. So, the court case you're referring to, I think, is the Lagos one, where already there's one. That's one. But the one in Kwara State, it's saying that there's the court injunction is that maintain status quo, which is, you know, right now, which is not allowing people, the students wear the hijab. So in doing that, this is the statement of the Secretary of, Khan, the religious body expressed sadness about the development, saying that it will use lawful means to reverse the order. And also the statement by the General Secretary Joseph Daramola, it appears there's a contempt of court because the governor is aware that there is a pending court case on this matter, over which the court had ruled that the status quo be maintained. So is the governor now saying he's above the law? What is going to spoil if we all wait for the court to pronounce judgment on the matter?
All right, let me go on a quick break. When we come back, I'll let you go. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we have with us the Chief Press Secretary of Kwara State, Mr. Rafiu Ajakaye. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning. I'm here.
So could you give us an update? Yes, we have in the papers that the state has asked all schools to close down while this is being resolved. Could you give us an idea what's being done currently concerning the hijab?
Well, the government is talking to all the sides to ensure that we have a consensus on the question of hijab. Now, I have followed your programs, and I must say I really enjoyed the conversation so far. To be honest, we are brothers, we are sisters in Kwara State, which is why the government is adopting dialogue. The government is having a dialogue with the Christians and the Muslims to see reasons why we have to stick to the law, why we have to allow the Muslim girl child who wishes to wear the hijab to do so. This will be in conformity with the judgment of the Court of Appeal. And of course, it will also be in conformity with the policy of the government, which was done based on the pronouncement of the Court of Appeal. Now, I must make some clarifications based on your conversation. There are two categories of schools in Kwara State, according to the Kwara State Education Law. We have the private schools, and then we have public schools. We do not have schools that are categorized as missionary schools. Most schools, as we are aware, were taken over in the 70s by the government. In 2013, Christian Association of Nigeria went to court to challenge the status of these schools, that is the ownership. And the court have ruled twice. There was the judgment by the Court of First Instance, which is the High Court of Kwara State. And then there was a judgment by the Appeal Court. In the two instances, the court made it very clear that these schools clearly belong to the government of Kwara State and that they are subject to public policy. Now, we are actually, at this point, not dragging the issue of ownership because it is subject of final judicial adjudication at the Supreme Court. That is clear. However, the question of hijab is another thing entirely because the judgment is declaratory in nature. I'm glad that some of our sisters on here made reference to the issue in Lagos. The Court of Appeal ruled in the Lagos case, allowing the Muslim girl child who so wishes to do to wear the hijab. We've had two different court judgments in Kwara State too. Court of Appeal cases in this case, which also upheld the right of the Muslim girl child to wear the hijab. Now, we are not saying everybody must wear the hijab. That's not what we are saying. What we are saying is that if there is one girl who wants to wear the hijab, such a girl should be allowed to use the hijab. We are not saying it is mandatory for everybody to use the hijab. What we are saying is that the court has made a pronouncement in interpreting Section 38 of the Constitution, which has to do with fundamental human rights.
Right.
And that it is only for us to stick to that.
Mr. Jakaye,
but we are not just...
Mr. Jakaye, therefore, so why do you think Khan is making such a fuss over this issue? Obviously, there's a court judgment, and the state government, there's a law backing this up. So why is Khan making it an issue and insisting that these children shouldn't wear their hijab?
Well, which is why the government is having a conversation with everybody to see reasons why we just have to allow the law to have its way, because we cannot allow anarchy. If we disregard the law, what we may have on our hand is anarchy, and that is not an option. We believe that at the end of the day, everybody will see reasons why we have to stick to the law, why we continue to have healthy conversations amongst ourselves.
Okay, sir. What was the situation until 3 weeks ago when the schools started enforcing no hijab? And what steps did the governor take to abate it? I mean, the committee put in place. How successful has that committee been in this dialogue you're talking about? Are they agreeing? Is there a dialogue at all that remains conflict in Kwara State?
Of course, I can count up to 12 different meetings held at different levels. There were meetings convened by the Office of the SSG. There were meetings convened by His Excellency the Deputy Governor. And of course, His Excellency the Governor has held several meetings with different stakeholders, particularly Muslim leaders and Christian leaders in the state, on why the government has to take the position it has taken. The government is not seeing it as a Muslim-Christian thing. Rather, the government is looking at it as an issue of fundamental human rights, the issue of respecting norm in the world today, that we should allow any girl who wants to wear the hijab anywhere to do so.
Please, I wanted to ask you, because the paper carried it today, Mariam read it as well, that there is a stay
Status quo.
quo. And that according to Khan is that why don't we just wait for us to have the order? Let the court give us a judgment concerning this case. Would you say, what would you explain is that status quo we are asked to maintain within the schools?
When people have raised this issue on status quo, I'm not a lawyer, but we have the Ministry of Justice here, which comprises very senior lawyers. And what they have said is that when you look at the judgment regarding the hijab, it is declaratory in nature. The government was not settling a dispute as such between two parties. The court was simply stating the position of the Constitution, which means that pronouncement is declaratory in nature. I would like to draw our attention to what happened in the Lagos case. The judgment was given in 2016, and sometimes in 2017, the Lagos State government went back to the appeal court to stay that judgment. And that motion was flatly rejected by the Court of Appeal. And we know that, we know based on that now, we now have hijab being used in Lagos schools. So that judgment, the judgment has to do with interpretation of what the Constitution intends. And so the issue of status quo here, the law today in Nigeria is that any girl child who desires to wear the hijab has the constitutional right to do so. Right. So the status quo is the Court of Appeal judgment regarding the validity of hijab.
Right. Okay.
Yes, sir. So when I was in school growing up, I would hear this, that your right stops where my nose starts. So I do agree with the human rights for everyone. And if you are a hijabite, you should wear your hijab wherever you find comfortable. But then there are rules and there are regulations, there are founding principles for different areas. So I just want to give a little background so that you understand where I'm going. When I was growing up, I had friends that would go for Makarantang Allo with. I would look for scarves. Sometimes they'll give me theirs. I would not just appear in Makarantang Allo dressed anyhow. I respected that place. I knew that my friends respected that place, and there was a way to dress, and I showed up there that way. I had friends who were Muslims where sometimes I couldn't go into their homes because of the setting where I was dressed. My friends would meet me outside. And sometimes, because I knew I was going to a certain place, I would dress a certain way to show respect. My question is to be careful in having this conversation, that we do not divide, you know, in pushing this law, that we should look for instead to bring unity and let people understand and respect each other. And in doing that, we have to let them understand that there are rules and guiding principles of a certain place, and there's a respect you show for that place. It will bring people better together. It will foster respect than what where I think we're headed right now.
All right. CPS, did you get that?
Yeah, I think I mentioned something about the different categories of schools we have in the state. We have private schools, which have their laws and regulations, and we have public schools. The schools we are talking about here are public schools under the law of Kwara State. And going by the court pronouncement, their status being public means that they are subject to public policy. Right. Now, the takeover of schools in the 70s, this clarification must be made. In some part of the country, the takeover was 100%. Government not only took over those schools, but they changed the character of the entire schools, including the names. Now, in states like Kwara State, for the sake of honoring the founding fathers of those schools, government elected to keep the names. The fact that the government kept this name does not in any way translate to ownership of those facilities. At least that is the position of the law today, going by the judgment of the High Court and the judgment of the Court of Appeal. So these facilities we are talking about are being funded 100%. Yes. by taxpayers.
Right. All right.
The teachers that are in these schools are being paid by the government. So these schools belong to the people of Kwara State as far as the law is concerned.
Right.
Now, what we are saying is that let there be tolerance there. Let there be pluralism, which the law allows.
Yes. Okay.
Let us allow any child who desires to wear the to do so, because that is our constitutional right.
All right. Thank you very much, CPS. I have to let you go at this point. We'll have to wrap up. But before we go, I'm going to let Nima say something. Because you're a Hijabite and you're a Hijabite rights activist, it's important that I give you this opportunity to say a few words, what you would like to see.
Thank you. So, thankfully, this week is the International Women's Week, and some compromises have been very costly for the Muslim woman. So the issues that women face generally are times 10 what a Muslim woman would face. Those sectors that we complain about, a Muslim woman trying to conform with her religion can't even access, attempt to, or work in certain sectors. And they're in every sphere. We brought Sharifat here, the STEM engineer that, she's now in Canada doing amazing things. But we cannot have, some establishment will not even want to see her until she takes it off, and they don't even accept that she has certain level of intellect because of that. So those compromises that you talked about, Miriam, have cost some people their entire fundamental rights, to grow and flourish, freely and thrive freely in society. Right. And this is what Khan is doing in 2021 by, insisting that this school's status quo was until 3 weeks ago that every child comes to school and gets an education.
I have to wrap up.
No matter what they were wearing.
I have to wrap up, but I must add that I do go to a school where I have a Muslim in my class and she wears a hijab, and it's a Christian-based school. So I understand these issues are there, but listen, we all have to dialogue and meet a consensus. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we're celebrating women achievers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So still on this year's International Women's Day, on this segment we'll be celebrating some notable women who we believe in their areas and endeavors have left indelible footprints for us to follow. They've made their marks in different ways. First up is Mrs. Foluke Abodorin Alakija. She's currently the managing director of Missing Middle Nigeria Limited, a company that facilitates capacity building and hand-holding training and loans for business owners, especially for women. She was formerly the deputy managing director and an acting executive director of EcoBank Nigeria Limited, a seasoned banker. She has over 32 years banking experience managing a portfolio of large, medium, and small companies in Nigeria and other companies. We also have Mrs. Justina Akpogwalewa. She is the immediate past company secretary and chief legal counsel of Sterling Bank PLC. She started her career with the Ministry of Justice, JOS, and Plateau State as a state counsel. Mrs. Justina has served as resource person on customer banker, mediation, legal, career development issues at training conferences. She has also won several awards. Welcome with us our two fabulous women today. Good morning, madams.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. All right, good to have you on. No, let me start with Mrs. Foluke.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay, I wasn't sure if you can hear me. So you have such an impressive CV in the financial sector. Today we're not talking anything serious. We just want to hear what your story is, how you started off, and how you're able to get to this level in your career.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and good morning once again to the audience. My own life story, really, that led to my career is such that I grew up in a family where my parents did not make a discrimination between their male and their female children. They ensured that we got the best education money could buy, irrespective of whether you were male or female. And I say that because I realize that in our society, male children do get some privileges, and as such, male children get pushed and enabled by their parents. So I'm fortunate to my parents that there was no discrimination, and they supported me every way up to where I got in my career. So my first degree is in economics, and when I came back to Nigeria, I did my youth corps at NNPC. NNPC at that time was at Falomo in Ikoyi, and there were a number of investment banks on that street, on Awolowo Road, and I wanted to become an investment banker. I tell you, just looking at the men who were in the investment banking space, I determined that I was going to be an investment banker. Now, it didn't happen the way I wanted it. I had to work as a teacher because I didn't get a job in a bank as I wanted, and I also worked in Punch newspaper as a journalist. Eventually, I got my break, thankfully to Otumba Shubomi Balogun, who gave me a job at FCMB. I worked there for 11 years or thereabouts. From there, I went to Citibank, and then from Citibank, I went to EcoBank Nigeria, where I left in 2017. But through that time, I must say that for me, I never played the gender card. I saw myself as a gender that is neither male or female. And the reason why I say that, I never really played the gender card is that when women play that card of, I'm a weaker sex, it would be used against us at some point in time. So everything my male contemporaries did, I also did it. I've climbed a number of oil rigs and, cement plants. And, so I was able to prove that what a man can do, I can do and do even better. I think for a lot of women in the workplace, it's important that you do a lot of research, you know what you're doing, you talk with authority, because at the end of the day, whichever way we look at it, there is something called an unconscious bias. In my own case, I'm petite, I'm about 5'4", and I'm not a very big person. So it even made it worse, when they see me, a director of a bank, and they say, "Oh, this is your small madam." But when I talk,
all right, let me pause
they keep quiet.
Let me pause you for a second, because I'm told that our Senator Olujimi is in the building. I would like to welcome her. Senator Olujimi. Good morning, madam. Are you there? Senator Olujimi.
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome, madam. So Senator Olujimi actually went to obtain her diploma in journalism from the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. So she's a journalist, and her story is that of rising from grass to grace. She worked hard to get to the top of her career, and she's one of the women we'd like to celebrate today. Welcome to the show, madam. Good to see you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, so let me go back to our other guests. Let me come to Nima. Go ahead.
Will I say it's a coincidence that Senator Olujimi came in at the time I wanted to ask a question. So she came on the show sometime in the past, and she talked about the bill, to curb the abuses of women in the financial sector. And our guest was saying that, she did not allow those division of gender, affect her role. She took up every position, and she did not, play the gender card. But there are certain issues that are facts that, they're just in our faces. It is now popular, and, it's a fact that, the abuses or some, or discrimination against women in that sector. And, because of that, there's a bill being, pushed on the floor of the Senate to curb it. Mad, would you try to, can you, tell us about some that you might have seen, and how you've helped, discourage them?
Okay, is that question for me? Because I didn't hear what she said. So can you please summarize what she said?
Okay, so your history shows that you were in the banking sector for a while, and Senator Olujimi has talked about the bill against the abuse of women in the financial sector that is on the floor of the Senate now. And because of that, I'm saying that it's a fact that even though you did not play the gender card in your career path, these abuses exist. Can you talk about some that you saw and what you did to curb them?
It's in my case, it's not that I did not see gender discrimination, of course, it's in your face. And that's why I use the word unconscious bias. So, you see a woman as a director and you're expecting a man. So you saw it, but it's important that you ride those discriminations, that you show people who you are and what your worth is. And then all of a sudden, they don't see you as a woman. They don't see you as weaker sex. It's about what you're saying and what you have to deliver. So that's the point I'm making. Okay. Yes, there'll be discrimination, but women have to be able to go above and beyond it based on what their knowledge is and who they are, and right. How they deliver what they say.
Okay, let me come to our other guests, because today we're focusing on celebrating women. So we also have Mrs. Justina Lewe in the building. I'd like you to tell us a bit of your story, how you started in the legal profession, how far you've come, and where you are in your career today.
Thank you very much. Like you said, I am a lawyer by profession. And I grew up in a house or in a family where my father was an educationist, and he put us in the right path. He was always, and as a matter of fact, still my mentor today, because he always comes in to advise where he thinks you are derailing. So as a child, after my secondary school, I got admission into the university through a prelim a program into the University of Jos precisely. And so when it came to choice of the course to study, I was more inclined to choosing management studies because there was so much competition about law. And my father said to me, why will you choose management studies or political science? I think you should go for law, and then your second choice can be management. And why I'm saying you should go for law is, do you remember what happened when you were growing up as a child? I caught a thief in my mother's shop. And as young as 9 years old, I had to go and testify in court. Whoa. And I remember vividly all that happened. And the magistrate was so impressed that he said to my dad that you should groom this child to become a lawyer when she grows up. Look at the way, without coaching her, without saying anything, she remembers everything, and she said all that happened vividly, So my father now recalled that incident and said to me, do you remember that? And I said, yes. And he said, okay, so go for it. You can do law. And I put that choice. And he said, you have to work hard because they have set the standard high. You must score 300 points. And I said, Daddy, is this going to be possible? He said, yes, it is possible. Just keep working hard. Lo and behold, when the registrar of the university saw him, he said, Mr. Lewa, even if we are going to admit just 10 students or candidates for law, your daughter has made it. She will be part of it. And my father came home and out of excitement, just grabbed me and carried me. And my mother said, what is going on? And that was how I got into law and studied law. And today I am passionate about law. I love it. And I am happy about it. Oh, great. So I moved on from the university to serve in Nile Merchant Bank. Today it is Sterling Bank. I served the NYC period there. Right. And I had two mentors. There was Miss Angela Omodare. She used to work with, or retired from IBTC as their chief legal counsel. And then we had Mr. Oluajano then. And they coached me so much that I loved it. And at the end of the service, because I did well, I was advised to stay on. But then I also had appointment with the Ministry of Justice, Jos, Plateau State. So I had to go home. And my father said to me, now back to these issues of women and stuff. My father said to me, you have to come back home so that you can get married. You will meet people from your side.
All right, let me
If you
pause
remain
you.
in Lagos,
let me pause you for a second.
remain in Lagos, you will marry
I know how.
somebody that is a stranger to us.
Yes. Let me pause you for a second because I'd like to get Senator Olujimi to also tell us a bit of her background, where she's coming from, so we have a foundation from all our guests. Senator Olujimi, are you there, madam?
Well, I'm here.
Yes, we'd like to hear your story.
I can't hear you.
Okay, I paused you a bit, Mrs. Justina Lewa, for a second. I wanted to talk to Senator Olujimi. Senator Olujimi, are you there, madam?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So we'd like to hear your story also because we know that every woman has a story. We're all coming from somewhere. And we would like to hear and tell us that what happened growing up and how you got to the point where you are today.
Mine is a checkered one.
I
come from a very...
Go ahead, madam.
Hello?
Go ahead, Senator.
Yes, I come from a very, very simple background. My parents were not rich, but they were godly people. My father was a photographer, and my mom was a seamstress, and there are 6 girls and 2 boys in the family. And I happened to be the first. Wow. And to crown it all, I was born on Christmas Day, so I was a special. And so we grew up knowing God first and foremost. The church was quite close. But you see, we also had contending issues around where we lived. We had so many brothels and motor parks all around us. But our parents used to tell us, if you want to leave this background and move up, the thing to do is face your studies and ensure that you know God. And that is the bedrock of all the we are as a family, and I am as a person. The Catholic Church shaped us, and we've held on to it since then.
So,
well,
go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. And so that is how it was. I went to primary school there at Ibadan, and secondary school again, of course, to a Catholic school, and that shaped me again for the future.
Right.
However, I left school at a very early age. It was a time when you needed to be 16 to go into the university, and I was not. And I had come out with flying grades, and so I had to look for a stopgap before I could move on. And so I went to the School of Journalism. I wanted to be a medical doctor. But when that didn't work, I didn't have a choice. I had to look for something else. So, and that's the beginning of all the story up until now.
Okay.
And it's been checked.
I really want to, like, you have a very interesting political career. You're not one of those that started from the top, but like, you've started in politics from being a publicity secretary. You started from 1997. I'd like to understand what was your experience as a woman in politics? How was it? We hear they have midnight meetings. They're always going to... It doesn't look like a landscape convenient for women, yet you managed to stay strong for that many years till now. What would be your advice to people aspiring for that same position? And what was your story like, sir?
I was very lucky. I started from the top. And it was at a time when the political climb was clamoring for women to come into the system. And so I happened to be one of those who ventured in. Suffice it to say, I didn't want to go into politics. My husband pushed me into it. Wow. He was the one that was in politics, but I was just helping out on the sides. But the people there decided that they didn't want a man, they wanted a woman. And that they wanted me because I had been of immense help to them. And he insisted that if I didn't go, he would leave politics and he won't participate again. But if I went, he would leave politics and support me from the rear. And that's what has happened. And so I went from contesting for the House of Assembly to contesting for the House of Reps. I did win the 2 times. I now was fished out by good men, by very good men, who insisted that I should not go back. So I went on to become the National Publicity Secretary of National Center Party of Nigeria, when it was, forgive me, the 5 leprous fingers. And from then, we were strengthened because we saw men who were fighting for their shirts, just like the women. They were no better than us. We knew we needed to work hard, maybe harder than them, but we knew that if we worked hard enough, we could get it done. So we did. We attended every nocturnal meeting. I have attended every, and I have been broken several times. They break me and I run home. But when I get home, my husband will leave me for 1 day to sulk and cry and do whatever. The next day he will wake me up. He will say, hey, girl, go back to that place. Show them. In Yoruba, we say, Teshimba Dani Antungun. Go and ride that horse.
Oh, right. Okay,
You are falling off the horse, go back and ride it.
Fantastic. Let me pause you for a
And
second.
that's how I've sustained my...
Good. Go ahead,
You know,
Mary.
when we got the names of this wonderful women that we'll be talking to today, I was wondering who I would find relatable. And everyone has something that just feels like I'm represented in you in some way. But I will talk to Mrs. Justina Lewa because you're a just person. And I'm also a just person. So I was really excited to know that you went to St. Louis College, because I went to St. Louis College as well. And what I hear, and it's also been reiterated by Senator Olujimi, is the support you got from your father, like the male support. And because it's International Women's Day celebrations that we're having, you know, we have these conversations about male involvement, male support, and sometimes it seems that when we talk about women's rights, they see it as fighting against men. But here you are, you owe your success to your father. Senator Olujimi says, you know, good men stood by her. Could you tell us, could you speak to men who are on the other side, who think that when we speak up for our rights, we're saying that they are not important or they are not needed or that we're competing with them?
Could you tell us, could you speak to men who are the other side that when we speak up for our rights? I'm straining to here, but if I heard you, you're saying that I should tell you more about the men who supported me?
Yes, and
is that the question?
No, the question is some men feel that. Some men feel that when a woman speaks up for her rights, when a woman asks that, you know, she be recognized for her value, her impact, what she does, that she's almost saying, I'm competing with you, or a man is not as important. But here we are with you, with Senator Olujimi. You know, it shows that men supporting women, you know, works.
Oh, yes. Men supporting women works. And I am a testimony of that. All along my career path, honestly, I have not experienced any sexual harassment. And the men have been my sponsors. That is the truth. They have been my sponsors. They have also been my mentors. They have always guided me, and they have always stood by the fact that they see potentials in me. And so when you work hard, when you are trying to hone your skills to fit into a position, the men who collaborate with the women or don't see them as a threat, they always assist you to do that. And so I've had mainly male bosses. I've had 1 or 2 females who were also very supportive, but the men went the extra mile. Wow. They will tell you that you don't wait for the organization to train you. Justina, you're on the right path. Why don't you pay to go for this course when you are on holiday? Why do you just take a holiday to enjoy and just while away the time? If you have 3 weeks, use 1 week to do a course. If you have 2 weeks, use 1 week to do a course. At the same time, you're visiting family or you're visiting friends. So they've always guided and they've always sponsored. And if they hear of anything or see articles, things that are encouraging, things that will make you stand out, they tell you so. My last boss, the MD of Sterling Bank, Mr. Yemi Adiola, always told me that, Justina, show yourself, speak out, speak up. Be part of your associations where people will get to know you and the things that you do. So I was a member of the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law. As a council member, I have talked and given talks at their MBA conferences and banker customer relationships. I have held, CIBN has invited me, I have gone and I have spoken. And so at meetings, while in the bank, you know, as company secretary, chief legal counsel, you are always, almost have all the management meetings.
Let me pause you for a second.
So, and
I know you're a lawyer. It's hard to hold you down, but I got to pause you for a second. But I need to bring in Mrs. Alakija again, because she has been in corporate Nigeria for a while. This is somewhere a lot of women claim they've been discriminated against. I mean, you go into the banking sector, and as a woman, you're expected to be a marketer. There's a lot of glass ceiling in the corporate sector. Could you tell us some of the challenges you faced in the financial sector and how you're able to rise above it? This is to Mrs. Alakija.
Okay, so there was a lot of interference. Could you just summarize that again, please?
Okay, so what I said earlier was that you work in the Nigerian corporate sector. And a lot of women, especially now that we're doing I Choose to Challenge, so many women have challenged discrimination in the corporate space. And they're saying that there's a lot of glass ceiling not allowing women to go further. So I'm asking you, being in the financial sector for so long, what were the challenges you faced as a woman, and how are you able to rise above it to get to where you are?
Okay, so as I said, a lot of challenges come from the fact that you have your male contemporaries who might feel that you're not good enough. Men tend to be very, very competitive. They are deliberate. Whenever they want something, they're very good at networking. These are some of the things that you find that women don't do as well in terms of networking, in terms of helping themselves. And so for me, obviously, I had good mentors. And my mentors were both male and female. I also mentored both male and female. Then I had sponsor. You know, there's a difference between a mentor and a sponsor. A sponsor is the person that will bring you to the table. A sponsor is the person that has watched you over the years, knows your abilities, your capabilities, and would push you forward and would be there at the time when decisions are made. And that person would help you achieve your goals. But the most important thing is that a lot also has to do with you as the woman. For as long as you do not see barriers, for as long as you know that at the end of the day, what your male counterpart can do, you can do it even better. As long as you do not self-limit yourself, there is nothing you cannot do. I would quote Ellen Sirleaf, the former Liberian president. She said something: if your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. You have to be bold. You have to have big dreams. You have to know that you have to get where God really destines you for. What I find at times is that we women tend to be shrinking violets, and we really don't want to, let people know. But no, go for it. Do what you have to do. And of course, do it legally. Don't now start, being too political and trying to do things that are underhand. But be focused, and you would overcome a lot of these issues that you have. And of course, join networking groups like WinBiz. WinBiz has been fantastic in terms of mentoring young women and making sure that they can reach the best of their abilities. So we need to be able to help each other as women. and the sky's the limit, really.
All right, so before you move on, let me introduce our next guest. She's just joined us right now. I'm told the MD, CEO, Unity Bank, Mrs. Tomi Shomefun is on with us. Good morning, madam. Are you there? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Good to see you.
I'm here. Good morning.
Yeah.
Sorry for joining late.
It's all right. So we'll come to you in a minute, but Nima had a question. Go ahead, Nima.
So, Mr. Lakija, because you mentioned WIMBIZ, and I read in your, your citation that you are on the board of the you're the chairperson of the WIMBIZ Institute. Ma, I know that knowledge is different from, from personal fear. So we have young ladies who have the knowledge to do amazing things in any sector. But in your course of mentoring women, can you talk about certain fears? Because, a lot of women are listening now that, you've experienced women have, and they limit themselves by those fears, and that you've been able to help them overcome to get, and that those what you've sponsored now.
Okay, so very quickly, I think in the financial sector, I see that a lot of women are doing good businesses. I mean, I'm moving away from corporate now, about business owners. So they're doing very well when it comes to their business. But then when you ask them that, what sort of loans do you have to support your business? A lot of women do not have facilities. So you have a situation whereby the lot of women that don't have access to financing, and when you dig deep, you'll find that everything that it takes to get a loan, the woman has. But it's just that confidence that they need to say, oh, this is what my business needs. And as Justina had said also, it's also about training yourself, self-development, go for financial literacy training, go for capacity building training, and then of course the networking as well, because once you network, then you can share experiences, and you can, people that have been down this road before you can assist you. So I think we women it's only if we limit ourselves. There's so many things available now that were not available when I started my career that are available to women. Right. It's just about women actually doing the research, right, being determined that I want to make a difference in my generation, right? And we will get there. Okay. Thank you.
So I wanted to ask Mrs. Shome for this question, Ma. You've risen to be you are the top of the career in banking sector, which is fantastic. We've had a few women occupy such position. What I want to ask is, what are the sacrifices you made? You see, because the truth is, you paid a price. You paid your dues. And many people give up. Sometimes you're like, oh, children, all of that. What were the sacrifices you made? And would you say it was worth it? And what would you say to those looking at themselves and saying, I want to resign?
Fantastic question.
Okay. First of all, the women that say, I want to resign, please, I beg you, don't resign. Because, you see, they say women are very good at multitasking. So if we're good at multitasking, why is it that we want to resign? Do you understand? At the end of the day, these children that we want to resign to go and look after will leave us because that's their own lives. They will leave us, and at the end of the day would say, oh, so what am I going to do now? So...
Oh, goodness. We're having some network. It's lagging right now. Mrs. Alakija, I would like to pause you for a second. Let me take that question to Mrs. Tomi Shomefun.
The question was for you.
I know, but it was Alakija that answered.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you. Yes. Did you hear Tokwe's question, madam?
You were asking... Can you repeat the question?
Okay, so she wanted to know what you had to sacrifice.
The kind of...
Because many women are in your position, they are climbing up the corporate ladder, and they're realizing that they might have to give up some things, time with the children, with the family, to get to that top. And there's a young girl right now thinking, I have to resign because I need to sacrifice for my family. So she's asking you, what sacrifices did you make to get to that top? Or was it a smooth sail for you all the way?
Okay, thank you very much. First, I'd like to say first thing I'd like to say is that life is about choices. And those choices are always ongoing. You, as a woman, you have to make a choice at every given point in time. Those choices may not be absolute, they may be temporary. You have to choose. It's about balance. It's a balancing act at any point in time. There are times where you would have to put family first and, slow down a little bit on work. There are times where you have to not put family at the background or ignore family altogether, but slow down a little bit or find suitable alternatives or create a support system so as to allow you to focus on a particular aspect of work. And I find that along the line in my career, I've had to make those kind of choices and balancing acts all the time. It's about sacrifice on a daily basis. You sacrifice sleep, you sacrifice pleasures, sometimes you sacrifice even just your own personal well-being, sometimes just for a short period to achieve a specific goal. The reason I said that sacrifices don't have to be absolute is that as a woman, you don't have to choose, do I want to be married or do I want a career? It's not about that. By the grace of God, I'm married, I have children, even grandchildren, and I have a career. It has not been easy. It's about sacrifice continuously and logically. You have to demonstrate a lot of wisdom.
All right.
At what point do I need to step back a bit from work and focus on XYZ for a specific thing? Perhaps a child is going through a difficult time. Then the sacrifice might be your own convenience, because you may have to use time that you would otherwise have used to relax or sleep to just take a trip over a weekend and go to that child's school and come back to work on Monday. Those are the kind of sacrifices I believe we need to consciously make as professional women. So it's not an absolute sacrifice of do I stay married at the risk, because I want to keep my job. I think that's not a good.
Okay. All right. So my question is to Senator.
Because at the end of the day, we are left with.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So my question is to Senator, and it's also the same question as Topaz. I would just like to know what you sacrificed, was it worth it, what do you regret in your journey to where you are now?
So that was for Senator Olujimi, but let me go on a quick break. When I come back, I'll allow Senator Olujimi to answer that question. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we still have our special guest with us, and we're celebrating women all week. So Mariam asked the question. I'd like you to ask it again. So
yes, to Senator Olujimi, I was saying that what were the sacrifices that you had to make, and now looking back, would you say it was worth it?
For me, I had to make several choices, and looking back, it's all worth the struggle and the commitment and sacrifice. There was a time when I started politics. I was pregnant with my last son, and I had to be an agent to sit with my long belly and hold the unit polls. And I sat there. It was a beautiful event because everyone that wanted to come and steal the ballot box ran away because they saw a woman with a long belly sitting there and manning the polls. It was very strenuous, but it gave me much more leverage than if I hadn't done it. Right along the way, I had to make very difficult choices. I had to drop ambition. I had to even subsume self. I had to swallow pride to be able to move. But in the end, it's been worthwhile. And like I said, I had good people all along the way who pulled me up. But they pulled me up as a woman, not because they liked me, but because they saw that this one would help their purpose. They saw that this one could work hard. This one can work without getting, asking for payment. And most of the work was gratis. But it made all the impact that was necessary. And eventually, the rewards came along, and they've not been bad.
From Mrs. Shomefo. When we, as women, as mothers, we cannot shelve that role. There's no how that, you didn't have to deal with the consequences of some of your choices, especially within the home. Can you give us a real example of one that you had, dealt with and you find okay now? Maybe, something that a child might have suffered that was due to the choice you made career-wise that affected home, and how you dealt with that consequences so you got maybe favorable solutions.
That's a tough one, but I'll do my best to pick one of the many, many, many examples I could pick. My first daughter, let me put it that way, my first daughter had to do a lot of growing up by herself as a result of where I was at the time. I remember I was working in a financial institution, and we were pursuing a license. At the time, she was about to go into A-levels. And we were working night and day, practically, to obtain that license. I was the one championing it, and I didn't have time. And she was completing her university applications. She needed guidance. She needed my input, but I wasn't there. And it's just the grace of God that enabled her to do what her friends and colleagues had both parents doing. At the time, I was widowed. I hadn't remarried. So I was the only parent she had at the time. And I just couldn't be there. It's one of the sacrifices that I made. Eventually, I tried to play catch-up. But catch-up is never the same as if you were there from the beginning. I'm sure we all know that.
Right.
It all worked out well in the end. But what I put her through at the time has made her a better person, a stronger woman, and she's learned how not to deal with her own children. Let's put it that way.
Run, unfortunately.
But I thank God for...
Yes, we've run out of time.
I thank God for his mercies. It's worked out in the end. Thank you.
So let me allow the other two ladies give a final word, just one sentence each, on that final message to women out there who are trying and striving hard to become where you are today. Let me start with Mrs. Justina Lewa.
Okay. Justina, do you want to go ahead?
Justina, yes, go ahead, please. Mrs. Justina, go ahead, please.
Okay, so in a sentence, I will say that women, this is the time for you to challenge the status quo. Speak out, speak up when there's discrimination against you in places of work, wherever you find yourself, and train yourself. Don't wait for somebody to train you. Invest in yourself.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Alakija, final word from you.
Final word, women, we're very strong. Reach the best of your abilities. Do not limit yourself. Go for it, girls.
Oh, nice. I
Thank
like
you.
that. And Mrs. Shomefo, final sentence to us. Address final.
Senator.
I've heard the phrase said, bloom where you are planted. Wherever you find yourself, make sure you not just bloom there, but you flourish there. Be the best you can be where you are at any point in time.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. On that note, we end the show. Thank you. I hope you learned as much as we have. It's such an amazing experience to have women who have actually walked that path. And we can actually, they've blazed the trail for us to get to where they are. Thank
No
you so much
excuses.
for joining. Yes. All right, that's all we can take on the show. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.